L'avion vient de démarrer. Tous les participants sont en mode écoute seul.
Okay, hello to all of you and welcome to this second webinar on the listening test and what else in programming. So can somebody tell me if you see in the chat part, if you can see my screen and if you hear me, please? So like that I can start. Okay, it seems like everything's okay. Okay, you have the sound, you have everything. Okay, so we will start. So this second webinar, so it's more on programming on this webinar and on your case studies. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start this module, if I can change my slides. Okay, so we're gonna do the module 2 today. On programming, we'll continue the listening test interpretation using your case studies. So what I like to do is to start presenting, doing a review of the different programs we have been able to use since level 1. Since as we go up in the levels, we use those programs to do our own programming. Just a second, it's giving me a message. Okay. So we will start by looking at the different levels in programming. So in level 1 programming, remember, what do we have? Okay, always remember, always the same. Our listening test goes from 125, the listening test goes to 8,000, but the musics that we use go to 16,000. So that's why I put on 16,000 here, even if all the ears don't get to that level, but we have, you know, that the human ear goes even to 20,000 hertz. So remember our 3 zones, the vestibular, linguistic, and cortical arousal zone. And so what do we do with the level 1 programming? So we use the MU. The MU, you know, can be, with an MU, you can get a BPU that goes from 800 to 60,000, a BPU 1 that goes from 500 to 3,000, the BP that goes from 0 to 4,000, a low BP from 0 to 6,000. Then we can do with the MU filter music at 500, at 1,000, or 2,500. And MD, it's an MU that you cannot do on the talk sub. All this, as you go up in the levels in the talk sub, you are able to put these filters. The MD has to be worked out in the sound lab because it's enhanced in all the frequencies that are low, linguistic, or cortical arousal, so in all the spectrum frequencies. Then we have the vals also, and the Gregorian. We have 3 types of Gregorian: mixed voice, male voice, and mixed voice with a filter at 1,000. And remember that the delay and precessions on the different musics are 10-100, 10-60, 760, or 860, which are gating speeds that are slow, not too fast, okay? Because for reasons of, we need to be careful. Since we don't have a listening test, we cannot decide to go down on the delays and the precession without the listening test. So remember that all this music cover, you see this, for example, the BPU goes from 800 to 6,000, so it's covering the linguistic area, and that's why in function of their filtering, in function of the areas they are acting on, we will find them in the different programs. That's what we're gonna see. But that's interesting because it's from here that everything builds up in programming, whatever the programs that we can do, whatever level we have and the programs we can use. So if we take, oops, I jump apart. Okay, the T and the F program. So you know that the T and F, they work on the three areas, on the vestibular, on the linguistic, and the cortical arousal areas. Because when we start our programming, we need to work globally on all the frequencies, on all the spectrum of frequencies, because we need to stimulate all the frequencies, since we don't know in which areas we have difficulties. We talked a little bit about that last time. Remember that in function of our listening, there will be areas where we will integrate more or less some frequencies in a better manner than others. So by using the TNF program, and that's why it's the two first programs that we use, the F being the first program that we use in general, the T, it's a pre-F, I would call it like that, that covers much more everything that has to do with sensory motor problematics, okay? And they both cover sensory motor, emotional, linguistic, and cognitive. So they cover all the areas of the listening test. So you see in function that the music of the T is this one, the music of the F is this type of music. So we are really working in a wide manner with the MU and the Gregorian. Then we have the low BPs that give us possibility not to give too much cortical arousal, and also to open progressively from 0 to 4,000, from 0 to 6,000, before introducing the MU that goes from 0 to 16,000, which is more demanding on the ear and the muscles of the ear and on the gate, because of the gating. Okay, so that's why we start with this low BP, to prepare the ear to the gating and to the globality of the frequencies. So after the T or the F program, or the T and F program in function, we have the emotional programs. Okay, so the emotional programs, they work more on the vestibular, more on the linguistic also, and not much on the cortical part. Okay, because you see, even if they cover globally, they're still global programs. Okay, but there are, with the VL, the MD, also aiming more on the vestibular and the second area, the linguistic area. So even if they work also globally. Okay, so they're more intended for emotional problematics, as you all know. Then we have the linguistic, which concentrate more on the linguistic and on cortical arousal, because we start using the filtering, which means that we are cutting off the vestibular area. So these areas won't be stimulated as much as in the other programs. Okay, and as we go up in the programs, you see that the filters go higher up. So we're working much more in the linguistic areas and concentrating our work in linguistic and cortical arousal. And then we go to the memory and attention programs that work much more on the cortical arousal, since we are working much more with densified music and filter music. And you know that the MA2 program is the more demanding one, because of it's the one with the more filtering, the most filtering. And it acts also in the linguistic part and much more in area 3. So when you look at at this, the way you're going to do a program, it's the same way. Okay, you have to decide which musics you want to choose in function of the listening test, in function of the possibilities of adaptation of your listening test, of the listening test, of your clients that's behind the listening test. So you have to take into consideration how is the vestibular part, the linguistic, and the cortical arousal area, or the zone 3. I put some tests here because a lot of people, say, how can you do a program without doing a listening test? So I choose a few tests of my clients. The first test of my client, I really chose them. It's the last ones I've been doing lately. So this is a girl who's 18, though. So this is her first listening test. If I just look like that to it, and I would, even without thinking about it, start with a T or an F program, just looking at this test. Okay, I don't want to go into the how you say interpretation of the test because my goal is not there. But you see, selectivity is very close. We have a big gap between the air and the bone curve, both sides, okay? And then the air curve, which is lower, or the bone curve, which is, well, the air curve, which is lower than the bone curve on the left ear. We have a lot of spatialization errors. And on her laterality, she's right ear, but her resistance is not very good. So we should lateralize her down to 6, okay? So here I have a first test, okay? And I would start with a T or an F program, okay? In function, since she's a very anxious girl and may think maybe I should start with a T, well, in her case, I started with the F program. Then here's a second test of a boy who's 10 years old. And you see here also the selectivity is very close. We have also a lot of spatialization errors, particularly on the left side. And the air and bone curve, which are not too bad. There's a little disharmony and balance between both curves. There's some points where we have the bone curve, which is over in quite a few areas on both sides. With a test like that, I would also start with an F program. Okay, on the laterality, we are more on the left ear here, and we are not very good also on the resistance, so we have to also lateralize to 6. So the laterality is not of good quality for the moment. Okay, on the first test. Then I took this another test, which is a lady who's 60 years old, and you see that the bone curve is almost over everywhere, a lot of spatialization errors, a selectivity that is quite close for an adult. For the laterality, which is not good either on both sides, so again, here I would probably start with an F type of curve, type of program. Here's an adult who's 47, it's a man. And again, that's his first test. Well, you see that there's big gaps in between the bone and the air curve. Quite a few distortion. They're not very harmonious. We have a lot of spatialization errors, a lot of selectivity errors for an adult. Laterality is not very good either. So again, I would probably start with a T or F program with this listening test. And the last test, that's a boy who's 4.5 years. I did it just last week. So he came because he comes for attention, concentration, language difficulties, and I was not able to do the whole test because he didn't want to continue the test, and I had a big, it sounded to me that he had ear infection, and he did, he did. They went to the doctor, the mother called me today, and he has an ear infection, so they're gonna take care of that before doing Tomatis. But you see, this curve also, T or F program. Why did I put this test? Is that if I take, I think, almost all my listening tests, my first listening test, they all tell me to start with a T or an F program. And that's the point I wanted to make, that we can do Tomatis even if we don't have the listening test, because the first test that we will probably use and that we need to use is the F test, because any of these tests that I'm showing you and that are my normal clients I get every day, they cannot do anything else than the T or F program with this type of test. Okay, so that's why the T and F program are so important in the work, and it's true we don't necessarily need a listening test when we start to do programming. So let's look at what we have in level 2 programming. Okay, so in the level 2 program, wait, I have a problem. Let's go back. Okay. So in level 2 programming, you all know we have all our 10 basic programs from level 1, and we have added the mixed programs on level 2. Okay, so here the specificity is that we have the capacity to use mixed programs like F plus emotion 1, A, and so on. So if I look back at my test, I could imagine maybe I have a case where I could mix a program. But most of the cases I look at, if I go back to my listening test here, with the gaps and the imbalance that we have here on the vestibular area, I would just do an F program for this case, okay? If I go back to this case, this is probably the only one where I could maybe say, maybe I can mix F with an emotion 1A program, or maybe F emotion 1B program, because selectivity is very close. We have a lot of errors of spatialization, but the bone and air curve are not bad. Okay, there's a little bit of imbalance in the vestibular area, so working with the F and the emotion 1B, which are quite close, could be a good possibility for this type of difficulty. Here, with the bone curve all over in almost all the frequencies, I would, especially with an adult, I would stay on the F program, no mixing. And here, the other adult here, I would also stay on the F program with the gaps, big gaps, a lot of spatialization, selectivity errors. I'm not even taking account the laterality here. I would stay also on an F program. And well, the last one, of course, I would probably start with the T program in this case. So for the moment, we're waiting that his ears get better. So you see, now we get to the level 2, and it's the same. Should we? I prefer personally to go slower than too fast. When I do my programming, so I don't always mix the programs from the beginning, because most of the time our listening tests don't give us the possibility to use programs where we can mix both of them. So what's the particularity of the level 2 is the audio vocal work. Okay, remember, you all have that in your courses, that reading will have an effect on the body, okay, which is very important. Also on the emotional level, on the quality of the voice, also on motor skills, fine motor skills, on attention memory, and on language. And that's why active work is so important in the Tomatis program. And that's something that I see a lot of people who are not yet integrating vocal work, which is really essential to, it's like you have to push the person to move, and active work is one of the best way of getting the person to advance. Okay, there's some rules to go into active work. I won't go through them because you have them in your documents that go on with level 2, but just remember that the listening test, before you can change from F to E or L or MA, you need to have not too many contacts and overlaps between the bone and the air curve. If I remember well, to go from the program F to the program E, emotion, to the program as emotions or linguistic, you don't have to have more than 16 overlaps or touches between the curves, and to go from the F to the memory and attention, no more than 12. Okay. So, and then you can use also the mixed programs, but it's the same. To go for a mixed program, for example, I don't know, from emotion 1 to emotion 1A to memory 1A, you shouldn't have more than 12 overlaps on your curves. Okay, so you see that my first curves is going to have to be working on this type of thing. So remember that on the level 2, we have different reading settings, which are the Chen 1, Chen 2, Chen 1, reading 1, and reading 2 with different speeds. Remember that chant is used to repeat musical phrases, to sing, to repeat Gregorian, for example. But remember that when we work on chanting, we need to have the practitioner has to be there to help the person, especially with the Gregorian, to be able to check that the person does it correctly. Okay, so the practitioner, the consultant, has to be able to guide the person into chanting. If you are not able to sing correctly, then you don't do this type of work unless you're working with a professional singer that doesn't need to have any directions given. Okay. Then we have two possibilities of reading. So we have reading 1 that we use generally in the F, E, and L program. So remember, it's a speed of 10-10. So we're going much faster when we work on active work because the audio vocal loop is much faster in speech. In reading, we have the pedagogical channels settings. Remember that in chant, channel 2 is set differently than the pedagogical settings. In chant 1, the pedagogical channel 2 is milder, okay, than channel 2 in the pedagogical settings, where channel 2 on the pedagogical settings, you get the most contrast between channel 1 and channel 2. In chant, the channel 2 is milder, so it will have more low frequencies and less high frequencies compared to the channel 2 in the pedagogical settings. This will help in chant to relax to get body relaxation, also to have embodiment to get the larynx relaxed, so there's less tension on the larynx, and it also helps to improve the quality of the timbre. I think you say that like that. So that's why we have milder channels, channel 2 on chant compared to reading 1 or reading 2, where we want to have a strong work on the channel 2 on the perceptual contrast. Generally, reading 1 at 10-10 is used when there are strong, important sensory motor deficits, for example, like coordination problems. It's also used when there is a lot of anxiety and stress. We will use more the reading 1 level. Or when there are language delays or reading delays, we will work first with this level, going at softer speed so we don't stress even more the person. Remember, one thing that's important is that reading is much more demanding than just doing some listening. So that's why we have to go softer when we work with reading. Then we have reading 2, where you see that the speed is much faster. So here it gives the possibility to have a good body integration of one voice when we go a little bit faster. You should work with this when there are no strong sensory motor or delays in language or rhythm problems, because if not, it goes too fast and it doesn't give enough time of integration for the person. And when there is not much also anxiety of stress, because the work which is faster can stress the person, so we don't want to increase that. Okay. And then we have the different filters for reading, and that's very important in function of how we use them. Remember that we will always start this way at 2000, then we go to 1500, and at one point we will get to no filters. The interest of a filter, a high filter, is to pull on the high harmonics of the voice. Okay, so that's very important because that's something we have a hard time integrating. So that's why we want to start with a filter at 2000. It's also a way of cutting the lower frequencies. So it works as an emotional buffer. We're going to cut the lower frequencies. So that's also important because the voice has, how do you say that, brings a lot of emotions, you can say that like that. So we dampen the lower frequencies. It also helps to improve the selectivity since we are pulling on the higher frequencies, and also to work on the fine tuning of the cochlea, because it's the higher frequencies who ask for most efforts. So we don't use this filter when we are doing using Chen 1, and when there are hearing losses which are high into the frequencies, because if we put a filter at 2000 and the people have a hearing loss which is important, they won't hear their voice. So generally we start with lower filters when there's a loss. We don't use them also when there's the bone curve is too low in the bone conduction, because if we put a filter at 2000, it will make that the bone curve goes even lower and pulling into the higher frequencies, so giving a lot of energy, but we're lacking vestibular integration, so it won't be very good. And you don't work with this type of filter with epileptic people, because it will give too much energy. Okay. Then we have the 1000 filter that you can use in reading 1 or reading 2. Here you have you're widening the vocal spectrum. Okay, so we're going down to 1000, so we're covering more frequencies with the filter, with lowering the filter. You can use it in Chen 1, in reading 1 and reading 2. Not with epileptic person, it's the same. Or if you have people, like I was saying, with an important drop in the bone conduction, you don't use this type of filter, because, as I was saying, you cut them even more from the vestibular part. So that's not a good idea. And then you have the 500 filter, which can be used also in reading 1, reading 2. If you have a lot of errors of selectivity above 1000, you don't use this filter. We're going to work higher up. You can use it with hearing loss. You can use it in cases of epilepsy. You can use it also with Chen 1. And then we have the no filter. We can use it in Chen 1 to widen even more the spectrum. But you use it once you have done the 1500 filter in Chen 1. If you have hearing losses that are very low, well, you put no filter. Okay, if the hearing losses are important in function where the hearing loss starts, you adapt one of these filters, so you are under the hearing loss. And you can use it with epileptic in reading 2, also in reading 1, if they already did on reading 1 with they use the filter. Remember that when you work with no filtering, you're gonna have how you say, more fatigue on the person, okay? Because you have you are covering the whole spectrum, and you also have a stronger impact of the lower frequencies, since you are reintegrating all the lower frequencies. Okay, sound is very bad. Somebody's telling me. Is it still very bad? I'm gonna drink some water. Okay. So, as I was saying, when you start working with no filtering, you will get more fatigue, because you are working on the whole spectrum of frequencies, which is not very easy. And that's why the no filter is not generally used in the first reading program. Generally, we stop at a filter at 1000 or 500 when we start working on reading, to pull on the higher harmonics, so the quality in that area gets better. And we use no filter when the person is already used to doing to do reading. Then remember that you have different times settings, 20, 30, 20, or 10 minutes. in function of the work you want to do with your client, in function of their reading capacities and their possibilities. So here I put an example of a program, okay, like the emotion one, where I put reading, okay. So you see that in this, I integrated a filter, a reading with a filter at 2000, okay. And, well, the balance, I didn't move it in this case. Where is it? Because it didn't change my, no, it's not here. No, I'm sorry. It's starting on this level on the second day. So I put reading here. So reading one with this delay and precession, a filter at 2000, and I put the microphone on 10 minutes and the bone conduction on 12. Remember, it's important to increase the bone conduction because when you start filtering and working on the voice, you lose energy, so you can increase the intensity of the bone conduction a little bit when you start doing active work. Okay, so you increase of 6 decibels the bone conduction. Here it's the same. Here's your reading. So you have, I put this, so you have an example on how to prepare. So I took my Emotion 1A program and just introduced reading, where I used the MU to do the reading because I didn't want to do it on the different music where you can do reading is the MU. You can use it on filter music at 500, 1000, 2500. You can also do reading on BPU. And you can use reading on, you can use MD to do reading, but generally only on the L program and the memory and attention, and not for the whole 13 days. Maybe one day, yes, one day you put another type of music because it's very tiring since you get a lot of gating. So it's not very easy. It's very demanding for the ear. And as you know, you never use Gregorian or low pass bands to do reading, okay, whatever level you are on. Since the Gregorian and the low pass, the Gregorian, to read on Gregorian, the rhythm of the Gregorian is very hard to follow when you are trying to read. It gets very complicated. And low pass bands, you're trying to pull on the higher frequencies. So if you put low pass band, you're gonna be stimulating the lower frequencies, which is in contradiction with the work we're trying to do in the linguistic area. And you get even more tired. You may tire the person even more. So that's a very bad idea. As you can see, sometimes the reading is in the first position, okay, because you don't have the possibility to change the positions in level 2. So what do we do is that they may not do the reading here. They may start with the vowels, the MD, and then we can do the reading, or we can start with the vowels, do the reading, and then continue with the MD, and so on. Okay, so you adjust your programming in function. We generally don't start with the reading, okay? So we can do it in second or third position or finish also with the reading, but generally we like to have it in second or third position. So the person does a little bit of listening, relaxes, gets the ear working, and then goes into reading. I don't know what to do with the sound because there's nothing, no message. Let me see. Tell me if like that it's better. Okay, let me see. Is it better like this? Okay. Try to see if it keeps going okay like this. Okay, so like I was saying, we try not to do reading on the first, like it's like position here, okay? Generally, we will position it, but we cannot change it in the level. So you have to adapt in function of your client. You position in second or third position for the reading. Well, I don't know about the sound. Some people tell me it's better. Some people tell me it's not good. I don't know what to do because there's not much I can do. Let me see. Trying to figure out something, but yeah, I think it's the connection which is probably not sending the, because I had a message at the beginning saying that the sound may be of bad quality because of the connection, and there's not much I can do about that. So okay, it seems like it's better now, but I think it's not. There's not much I will be able to do concerning the sound. I'm very sorry. So let's see a little bit in level 3 programming. What do we have to use? Okay, so you know that for the persons who have been trained to level 3, you have different settings, like the settings of delay 12, 10, 8, 7, and 5. Precession, we have new settings, so we can adjust to faster speeds or longer speeds in function of the work we're going to do. So remember that with the delays, when we work with shorter delays, we are working on cortical arousal, we are working on the attention. It's also a way to work on the protection, since we are going to stimulate the stirrup and the bone conduction more, so it's way of protecting also. And then when we work, we have the possibility also to work with the delay at 12. We use that with a hyposensitive person who are generally, for example, on the level of the touch, the vestibular, auditory, when there's poor muscle tone also, we're going to work more progressively. And for people with epilepsia, people who had brain damages, it's a longer delay that we may use to progressively start acting on the muscles. With important developmental delays, we're going to use so for people also who are very stressed persons or anxious persons, we may use a delay on 12. And then we have the precession, which gives us the possibility to work more on the muscles of the middle ear, the both muscles, the hammer and the stirrup. So it also works as an anti-masking effect when we shorten the precession, since we are stimulating more through air conduction. Also works on cortical arousal, on attention, on memorization when we shorten the precession. But also remember that as you shorten delay and precession, it gets more and more tiring for the muscles of the ear, and you have to be very careful of not getting the muscles fatigued too much. So because if there's too much stimulation, they won't be able to do their work correctly. Okay, so you have to found it's very hard to I would say to how you say not too much and not enough, to have a middle uh, speed. And that's why most of the time we may do a long delay, then a short delay, long delay, short delay, the same for precession. Okay, we mix them together, so we just don't do short or just do long. Okay, we're gonna mix long and short delays, so we get exercise, then we rest, we exercise again, then we rest. Okay, and you see that you have much more possibilities in filtering with different slopes for the high pass filtering. On the low pass, it's the same with different slopes. And then you have the band pass, which have also this one, which is these two ones, which are new in level 3, okay, which are aiming more in the linguistic area with these filterings. Okay, so that's the different filterings that you can use in the level 3. Okay, the reading settings, as you know, you have plenty of new settings that are available. on the different in function of, well, you have that in your documents. You can check the difference. Well, you see the difference is the speed, okay, and that you have to do it progressively. You cannot go from reading 1 to reading 4, okay. You have to take progressively down in the, and sometimes in function of the difficulties, we have big motor delays. We're going to stay on delay on reading 1 the whole program, and even maybe the next program also. Reading 5 with no delays, it's very fast. And we use it generally in cases of strong hearing loss or with very advanced readers. That means that they have done already 1 or 2 intensives of reading before getting to that speed. Okay, so we don't use, we don't use it much, this type of speed. And then you have the singing channels, Chan 1 and Chan 2, with a faster gating for Chan 2. Then the different filters, okay, so we have here 1500 that adds up, and different slopes in function of the work we want to do. And it's the same, you can use for reading the different musics that we use are the MU. Also, let me go back. We can use the MF 500, 1000, 1500, 2000. And you also can use to read MD, but also on occasions, not constantly. And here you can also introduce the BPU for reading, or the BP3 that goes from 1200 to 4000, for example. Now let's see a little bit the possibilities of level 4 programming. So here we're going to have new settings because delay in passive work goes from 0 to 12. So we have all the capacities of delays, and in active work we can go from 0 to 10. Then the precession in passive work goes from 0 to 100, and from inactive work from 0 to 10. So we accelerate the delays and precession. We have in the low pass, in the high pass, we have different possibilities. So you see that we have slopes that have changed, and we see that we have all the filtering that appears in level 4 from 500 up to 8000 with slopes at 24 or 36 decibels in the very high frequencies. And in active, we have also 5 possibilities that are the same than before. So we have 10 new possibilities in level 4, which are particularly the high filtering at 24 and 36 decibels per octave. So these musics here are mainly used when we start working on what we call the in utero listening. So when we decide to use the mother's voice, we have to go through this filtering before being able to use the mother's voice. In low pass, only in passive, we have five possibilities. So we have more low pass, you see, at 3000, 4000, and 6000 with different slopes, okay? And we have added a low pass at 3000. So it goes from 0 to 3000, which is quite slow in a general. And then in the band pass, you see that we have 4 new band pass, one that goes from 1000 to 3000. So if you see, we are concentrating in the linguistic area with the band pass. And then we use some that are new, which are not used in level 1 or level 2 or level 3, which are the scans. So we have different scans which go, it's music that go up from 0 to 1500 and then go back down in half an hour. They filter and defilter themselves. It goes up and down. Or they just go up. They go from 0 to 4000 in half an hour, or from 4000 to 0, 0, 6000, 6000, 0. And then we have one that we use when we are working with mother's voice is 0, 8000, 8000, 0. So the scans, we use them when we are working a lot on sound discrimination, for example, or musical analysis, on working memory. We can also use them to open the selectivity, but we have to have used filtering before using the scans. And we also work with them for linguistic integration to work on specific areas. So you see that we have uh, more possibilities. If you look at the different possibilities that we have, we are aiming more progressively at specific areas in function of the filtering and in function of the work we want to do. But which it was already the goal when we started with the different programs um, on level 1, okay, where they are aiming at specific parts. In level 4 programming, you have on the presets, you have 31 possibilities because you have, well, the pedagogical with reading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have all the linguistic settings, okay, which are specific to each language. So each language has its specific delay and precession and its specific channels. So the person is able to integrate the rhythm, the prosody of the language they want to integrate. So when you select, for example, I don't know, British English on your TalkSup, you automatically have the settings of delay and precession and the gating, the channels, which are the ones of British English. If you select Spanish, you will see that the channels will change and that the delay and precession also change. For active, there's also always two possibilities, Chen 1 and Chen 2, okay, like in the other levels. So here what changes is that you get all the linguistic settings when you have the level 4 TalkSup. Okay, I want to go into your case studies. I was just wanting to go through all the different programs. Different how you say music and possibilities in programming. And now I would like to go through your case studies because that's where I think we will get the most work done. So I'm going to start because I got quite a few case studies from all of you. So I'm going to start in the order Solange received them. Okay. So I'm going to open the first one. So if the person, what I'm going to do is to open the microphone of the person who sent the case study, because I think it'd be better if you can present the case. So here it's, I don't know if the person can speak. Wait. Yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay, if you can present your case, because you know the case, so it would be much easier if you do it, and then we will work and to know also what you want to know about your case and so on.
Okay. This client came to me because he had anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
He had stress and panic attacks. He suffered from depression and was taking medication. He had sensory processing issues, did not like sitting next to another person in a bus, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
He used to be clumsy and still can be. He had some vision difficulties with focusing. He was sensitive to sounds, but not to natural sounds.
Sorry, I have a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. He is on a gluten-free diet because of irritable bowel syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
He suffers from certain allergies and had tinnitus, but was managing this tinnitus. And when younger, he took medication for ADHD, but he has stopped that a long time ago because he didn't feel it was doing him much better.
Okay.
So my tendency is to say he was emotionally under stress quite a bit. He had difficulty with work, and anxiety being with other people, but not his own family.
Okay.
So I did a test with the DASS, and the scores were very high for depression, anxiety, and stress. And the burnout test showed that physical and cognitive burnout was high, but emotional burnout was medium.
Mm-hmm.
The Tomatis questionnaire had difficulties pretty much in all areas.
Okay. Okay. So he's married. He's single.
He is single. That is also the touch issue, where he doesn't like to be touched and doesn't like to be kissed and things like that.
Okay.
So his goal is to improve his concentration and have less anxiety.
Okay. So I'm going to show the test so we can have a look on the listening test, and then we come back to this. Okay. So this is his first.
Okay.
No. Is this the first test?
Yes, this is the first test.
Okay. Wait. No, this is the first test.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Oh no. This is test number 3. Sorry, I've put them, I realized later, I've put them in the wrong order. The last one is the first one.
Okay, so this one is the first one.
Yeah, that's the first one.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out where the...
And I had to scan it because my computer lost the first test.
Okay, so here...
So the bottom line is the red.
Okay, this is red one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here it's the red one. That's easier.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if we can... I would like to open the other microphones. I'm going to try to see if there's not much sound because I would like you to participate. Just a second. Okay, what can you tell us about this test?
Sorry, what I can tell about this graph?
This, yeah. It's what you put here on the, sorry, on the first, this is for the first test?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I've got for the right ear, there's a flat curve descending from 5,000 hertz.
Do you have this on so I can put the test and you can just go through it?
Yeah, I'll just have a quick look, just a moment.
Okay. Lucy?
Yes.
Lucy, you are making a lot of noise.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you could hear me. Sorry.
Yeah. If you want, you can cut off your microphone if you like.
Okay.
Because I turn on all the microphones, so if you want to participate in the analysis of the test, but you can cut it off and just open it when you...
Okay, let me see how to do that. I was just turning pages. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we could hear, yes.
Mhm.
If you go in the audio part, you can cut off your microphone.
Okay. How do I turn it off?
okay, even if you don't have the documents, can you just tell us what you can see on this test? Just
Yeah, I've got the documents here.
okay.
I see in the right ear a flat curve, which is going steeply down at the end in the higher frequencies. And the left curve is a little bit rising. There's in the beginning a little bit of a rise, and there's also is it descending towards the end. There is kind of a balance, I think, but there's a bit of symmetry as well.
Okay.
Okay. Then there is big gaps between AC and BC in the left and the right ear, but more in the left than the right.
Yes.
There are many specialization areas in errors in both ears, but the left ear has more specialization errors in the linguistic area, while the right ear tends more to the lower and higher frequency areas.
Okay.
This selectivity is closed from in the left ear from 3,625 and in the right ear from 3,750.
Okay.
And
the laterality should be it's
the laterality is 6.
Okay, so +7 means that his left ear and that the resistance is okay. So that's 10, 15, it's -5. Okay, 6, yes.
6, yeah.
Okay, so it needs to be lateral. Okay, concerning your client and what you were describing, okay, the anxiety, the stress, panic attacks, depression, sensory integration issues, emotional distress, what can you see on the test that gives you information about this?
I think the emotional stress and anxiety is where the AC and the BC is quite far apart, and he has closed himself off to be able to cope. Especially in the left ear, you see that from say around 1500 to 3000 hertz. And in that same area in the right ear, there are gaps as well, but not as many. So the left ear, I understand, is more the emotional responsive ear. And the right ear is more the rational ear. Now he has difficulty with political issues in his home country, which I think he's trying to block out to be able to deal with it. And I'm not sure if you could say that because of those gaps in the listening test.
I'm not sure we can say that either.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
He is general anxious anyway. Then there's big gaps in the body zone, and he mentioned clumsiness. Clumsiness, especially when he was little, difficulty riding his bike.
Okay. So you see here that we have an imbalance, okay? We are not at the same level in this vestibular area compared to this one. So you're going to have an imbalance in the vestibular zone, which can create, clumsiness, coordination problems, and other type of difficulties. You can also have some vertigo, things like that. Everybody expresses their difficulties in the way they can, but yes, that corresponds to what you are saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one. Then, go ahead.
I just want to say his social communication skills, not being able to be with other people freely, that shows in the linguistic area.
Okay. What do you mean?
I think that because of the difference between the AC and the BC, that he has difficulty with communication, doesn't understand the other person, and doesn't feel relaxed being with them.
Okay. Because here on the, if we look at the right side here, it's not, we have this gap also that you have to take into account in the air conduction. You see?
Yeah.
Okay.
Between 1500 and 2000? Is that what you mean?
Yes, in air conduction. Because
Yeah.
that what does that mean? That if in the linguistic, because we're in the middle of the linguistic area, there are sounds that he has to, when you do a gap like this, it means that you have to send sounds stronger to react on them. Okay. Remember also that the air curve is the one who put us into contact with others. So it means that here that there's no real, like you were saying, what you're saying is completely right. There's no contact with the outside.
Yeah.
And the gap in between, that's very important, because that means that you're putting a distance with others. Okay. So because here the curve may seem quite nice, if we can say like that, but there's this distance between himself and his own emotions, the inside world and the outside world, if we can say that like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What does the falling curve mean?
That I think this, because he's focusing very hard on the body zone and the linguistic zone, that there's no energy left for and not enough cortical arousal. Could you say that? I'm not sure.
In a certain manner, yes, but it's also the sign of a depressive curve.
Okay.
Okay. When you have a falling curve in the higher frequencies, you have to check two things: that there's not a hearing problem, okay, because he can lose hearing in this area. But since in the anamnesis you talk about depression and so on, this can confirm the fact that he's depressive. Okay. Except that, as you were saying, the fact that you perceive too much the lower frequencies will cover the lower and the medium, will cover the higher frequencies. Okay, which has to do with also with depressions, and like that the person is not able to, like you were saying, get energy. Okay, give himself cortical energy. Okay, even if he's still able in these areas to get energy in the lower frequencies.
Okay.
But that goes with a depressive type of curve, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what can you say? What I don't know if there's other things you like to say on the listening test.
Maybe the specialization areas in the left ear. There's many in the linguistic area, and that probably ties in with his social and communication skills. Anxiety, because he might not be able to interpret what people around him are saying. So difficulty in noisy environment, he mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very good.
There are specialization areas in the right ear. Does that also then mean if there is a descending slope, that the specialization areas are the same, like pointing out to a depressive state?
No.
Okay.
No, it has more to do with the sound localization, okay, the specialization errors, and it will have, well, it can go, you can add it up to the depression, because if you have a lot of specialization errors, it gets very tiring to integrate correctly the information. So it won't help if you are depressive, but you cannot, you're not depressive because you have a lot of specialization errors.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah. So he kind of might become depressive because he can't pick up on the sound, so not being able to follow conversations properly or easily. It makes him tired.
Yeah, it acts. It all this ask for to listen, just to listen normally with no problem. It's already a lot of energy that you have to put into listening. Okay,
Yeah.
but you don't become depressive because you have listening problems. Okay,
Yeah.
depression is a pathological state. Okay, that's there. It has an incidence on listening.
Okay. So the listening can enhance the depression.
Yes, yes. There's
Okay.
a correlation between the fact of having a curve that falls and the depressive state, because the person is not able to get energy. Okay.
Yeah.
Since we are in the higher frequencies area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And also the selectivity. Okay, which is even for an adult, even if it's close high up, but it's quite close. Okay. So,
Yeah.
which touches also the higher frequencies. So it means that there's a protection in that area also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now you have also to take into account the difference between the left and the right ear. Okay. The left ear is in relation also with the past. Okay. And so that's why sometimes when you have problematics that appear on the left ear, the person may not be conscious of it. Okay, because for Tomatis it is in relation to the past. So I may have huge distortions, and you tell the person, "Oh, you may be very stressed," and they're going to tell you, "No, I'm not stressed," because they don't feel it. Okay, when it just appears on the left ear, it's not represented in the present. The present is the right ear. You understand? Well, for
Yes, I do.
all of you. So that's very important, because what happens on the left ear is in relation to the past. What happens in the right ear is the present. And if it appears on the left and on the right, it means that something of the past is having an incidence on the present. Okay. If I have, I don't know, this type of a peak like this on the, which is at 1000, if I can see correctly, more or less 1000. Okay, it means that maybe his stomach is hurting. Okay, let's take an example like that. But if he only had it on the left side, he wouldn't feel it. Okay, but here we have it also on the right side. Okay, so it means that he probably has a stomach ache. Okay, it's just an example. Don't interpret it like that. Okay, and if it's only, but it means that it's something that's how you say, chronic. It can appear, it can be there, and it appears sometimes, it hurts and then it goes away, but the peak is gonna stay. And if it only appears on the right side, it means that it's something that's just sensitive today, and maybe tomorrow it won't be there anymore. And that's why it's so important that the two ears look alike also. Okay, to be able to see if it's just things that are happening on the present, or if they have things to do that are there for that have been there for quite a while. Like you see the gap here. This gap, you don't build it in one day. It takes a lot of listening problems to build a gap between you and your emotions. Okay, so it means that that's something that's been there for quite a while in the way he's communicating, and that's why he has so many difficulties in the communication, in the fact that he doesn't like being touched and so on. So that's not something that's going to go away just like that. You understand?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if the other persons would like to say something about the test. Make any comments, add things, because I know some of you are consultants, so you may share also your knowledge. And also the fact that his laterality is on 7. Okay, remember that the extraction laterality will give you which ear is his dominant. Okay, when you have a result of 7, it means that you are left ear. Okay, so you are functioning in your emotions, you are functioning with your past, if we can say it like that, and the person has difficulty to move into the future, if we can say that like that. So when a result of laterality on the left, it means also that that goes also with making more efforts, that can go also with the depression. It means also that it may take you more energy and more listening to get him out of this problematic. Okay, so the laterality is interesting also on that way. It's to see how people manage their problematics. Are they able to react or not? Or is it going to ask them for more energy? We will talk about this on the third webinar. I want to talk more on these lateralities issues, but it's that. Do I have the energy and the possibility to advance or not? And when I'm stuck in my left ear, it's going to be very difficult to advance. His extraction his resistance is good. So that's a positive thing about it. So he may have more arguments, if we can say that, to be able to move forward. So I don't know if people want to say something. If you want, your microphones are open, so you just grab the microphone. Okay. So what did you do as a program with this person?
I had to make a decision. He did 2 days on the F program in another country. So he mentioned that he was fine with the F program.
Okay.
So I thought that maybe to continue the F program and monitor him closely because of his tinnitus would be the right idea. So I did, and he went through the F. I was in contact with him on a regular basis. He kept saying he was fine with the program. But 2 weeks after he stopped the program, I got an email saying that his tinnitus in the higher frequencies has become more loud, and he wasn't used to that. And he has a little bit of difficulty coping with that.
Okay.
It's bothering him more at nighttime than daytime.
Okay, that's
so yeah. So I thought maybe I should have gone for the T program instead of the F program.
I think it wouldn't have changed much about the tinnitus problematic. Okay. Tinnitus are quite difficult and specific. Something that you can do as is a test of the tinnitus. Okay. To see the intensity of what you do is with people who have a tinnitus, you ask them on which ear it is, if it's on both ears, if it's just on one. And when you finish your listening test, you tell them that you're going to test the tinnitus. And so you choose the ear where you can choose whatever, the opposite ear of the tinnitus. And through air conduction, you're going to send sound. So you ask first the client if his tinnitus is high or low in the frequencies. So you know more or less where to start in the frequencies. If he says it's a high frequency, maybe you can start at 4,000. Okay, 4,000 is a good point to start on tinnitus. So you send a sound at 4,000 and you ask your client if the sound is close to the sound they hear. Okay. If it's not close, you go to 6,000 or you go to 3,000 and you ask him if that's closer to the sound they perceive. Once you find more or less the sound that resembles their tinnitus, and you'll never get exactly the same than the tinnitus, you're going to try to measure the intensity of the tinnitus. Okay, so let's say that he says that on 4,000 the sound resembles his tinnitus. So now we're going to increase progressively until the person tells us that his tinnitus and your sound are more or less at the same intensity. Okay, so let's say that at 35 decibel, he tells you that the two sounds are at the same intensity. So in the observation area, you're going to put tinnitus, let's say right here at 4,000 and intensity, 35 decibels. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do again a listening test, you redo the tinnitus test. Okay. And a lot of times what you will realize is that the tinnitus has an increase, but the person perceives it stronger. Okay. Because his listening is changing, but the tinnitus sometimes is even lower, but it's more bothering because it's getting into consciousness. So people start being bothered by the tinnitus, but you can also see that the intensity doesn't change. So it doesn't mean that they shouldn't perceive it stronger, okay? Because that's completely independent, okay? Of the intensity is in function of how you feel, of how the person is. If there's fatigue, if there's stress, if there's tension, the intensity, the perception of the intensity will change. But it's interesting for you to see if the intensity and the frequency changes. Okay, so for all of it's, I think it's important that you can measure the tinnitus.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so
that was very helpful.
okay, and you also have to know that the people with tinnitus, when you start working with them, they're so sensitive to everything that generally it goes up. Okay, so you have to discuss with them. There's a big part, a psychological part to the tinnitus. So discuss, reassure them, and to make them understand that their tinnitus, it can be for physiological reasons because the ear has been hurt and so on, or if there's no physiological reasons, we are more into a psychological reason for the tinnitus. Tomatis used to say to his client is, what is there something you don't want to hear, that you have a sound bothering you? So it kind of goes with all his problematics, okay, of depression, of not wanting to be in touch with others, and so on. So the tinnitus can have, that's a hypothesis I'm making, that his tinnitus could be a way so he doesn't perceive others or perceive certain things in the voices and so on of others. So when it starts changing, it means that he's probably also changing himself, and it's going to bother him because he has to put attention. Since he's getting better, something has to be wrong. Okay, and a lot of times the tinnitus changes and increases. So the person, I was going to say, just not being mean, but needs to complain about something. So we have the tinnitus for it. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you kept doing the break.
Yes, during the break, I gave him 2 exercises to do to help him kind of more manage anxiety and depression.
Okay.
Which he did sometimes, not all the time. And then I did a retest. The second test is after, a day after the intensive stopped.
This one?
Yes, that's the one. So that was at the end of the program.
Okay, so that's beginning of March.
And that is on the...
Just when he finished the program, okay?
Yeah. So his laterality has changed from 6 to 7,
Yes.
but still left ear.
Yes.
There are a lot less specialization errors. The curves have come. I don't think the right ear curve has changed an enormous lot, but it did. But the left ear, I think, changed more, but is still very close. He's still closing himself off a lot. The selectivity has opened up in the right ear.
Yes. You only have one error left here on the left, which is very good.
Yes, yes.
Do you know if the tinnitus is on both sides? Do you know or not?
I think it was more on the left than the right.
Okay, because you see this point here could be his in relation to his tinnitus.
Okay.
So that's why it'd be interesting to check what his where the tinnitus is more or less.
Yeah, I saw him last night, and I see him pointing to his left ear.
Okay.
But I do know that he also has it in his right ear.
Okay.
But the interesting thing was I retested him again for his second intensive on the 15th of April.
Okay.
And he said that the perception of sound was more clear. The first test, he said, it was kind of guessing, do I hear the sound or is it my tinnitus? But the third test was very quick in responses. And he said the sounds were more within his head than out of his head.
Okay. So what do you think? So this is after the break, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did he read out loud during the break?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
It was just the F program as programmed on the ELMA programs.
Yeah. No, but I'm talking about using during the break the forebrain or just.
Sorry, no, he didn't use the forebrain.
Okay, that's something very important with all your clients. Forebrain or no forebrain, whatever, if they have it or not, but it is very important that they read out loud during the break. Okay, because the voice, when we do the first program, the aim of doing the first program, like I was saying in the beginning, is to act on all the frequencies. Okay, and just by doing that, you have automatically a change in the voice, in the quality of the voice. You're gonna have higher frequencies it's gonna be richer in higher frequencies, in the harmonics, in higher harmonics. And the goal of reading out loud during the breaks for adults or children, okay, it doesn't matter, it's to use those changes to stimulate the brain. Okay, and that's why it is absolutely necessary that the person reads out loud, like we saw of the importance of the audio vocal work in the Tomatis program. Reading out loud is part of the audio vocal work. Okay, even if you don't have the gating and so on, because you're just using your voice, but it's very important. If you have the forebrain, it's even better. And for this type of problematics, it's a little difficult to use the forebrain because he has a tinnitus, but he can read out loud just putting his right hand in front of his mouth, okay? Not touching the lips, but that what he says bounces on his right hand, if we can say like that. Like he was holding a microphone in his hand, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you ask him to read out loud every day. He's an adult, we can go up to 20 minutes a day. okay, or twice 10 minutes, or if he doesn't have time, just 10 minutes. But it's something that's essential to the work we do because it gives us the possibility to continue the work at home. And when we have depressive people, it is very important that they stimulate themselves with their voice. And you see that the curves have changed. They're in a better shape. There's better quality of the curve in the different areas. So it would be good that he's able to work in at home, reading out loud, just like you and me when we read out loud. And you have to sit down correctly to have a good posture. The feet have to be positioned on the floor, like the posture for the forebrain. You can go on the website of forebrain and you see the posture, and that the person clients read out loud. We do it also with children. They can read 2 minutes, 3 minutes in function of their capacity to read. If they don't know how to read, we ask them to speak, repeat words, repeat songs, whatever, to make sounds. Okay, what's important is to continue making sounds because we are modifying the ear. So that's a very important part.
Okay, yes,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. So what program did you do? Because I guess he's starting his second intensive.
Yes, he started his second intensive, and because of his tinnitus, I wasn't sure if the F program would be the right program. So I gave him the T program, but he did the 10 minutes on the T program on Saturday, and he couldn't handle it. So he didn't want to continue at this moment. He says he wants to work first on his tinnitus and then continue Tomatis.
Okay. And how is he going to work on his tinnitus?
He says he's discovered that he has a metal poisoning. He's seen a specialist last week. He's on medication for it, and it's kind of detoxing his body. And when that's finished, then he will pick up on Tomatis again.
Okay. I'm not sure that the tinnitus will go away with the disease, what he's doing. Okay. Desintoxication.
Could you say, Valerie, that he is what is the word, somatizing his problems?
Well, when you have a curve that goes up like this, okay, there's not much somatization because the bone curve stays under, okay, except the point here on the left ear. But with the curve, which is much more higher in the lower frequencies, it means that the body is the one who's controlling the system. Okay.
Okay.
So yes, the body somatization is part of the depressive problematics.
Okay.
And that's why we have to pull. Here, the problem is too much low and not enough high. Okay, if we can say that like that. So we need to find a program that gives us the possibility to pull on the high frequencies and to lower the lower frequencies. So he's not so much into his body, and that he's able to express and communicate his problematics, which are not for the moment the case because we still have this gap in the linguistic zone. So we still need to work on the lower area. I don't think the T program is the best choice. Okay. If you didn't do the T before the F, generally we don't go back when we do a F, we don't go back to a T program. Okay. If you want, because it won't change much on the tinnitus. What's important with the tinnitus is to speak with the person so she understands that he can have a control on it. Okay. But you go into a more psychological. When we work here with tinnitus, we never start using music. When we work with tinnitus, we're gonna work on what the tinnitus represents for the person. what is it there for? What's it's like giving a rhythm into the life of the person, the tinnitus. And we have to make him understand that you cannot rhythm your life with a tinnitus. A tinnitus cannot give the rhythm of life. You see what I mean? Because people with tinnitus, they wake up, they check if the tinnitus is there. Then in the day, they hear it, they don't hear it. At night, they don't sleep, and so on and so on. So everything is in function of the tinnitus, and we have to teach them to live with it in the best possible manner. But for that, they have to concentrate their energy into something else. So they have to understand the functioning, the somatization that the tinnitus can, the role of the tinnitus in some cases. Okay, and with depressive people, yes, it can be very much a somatization, the tinnitus. Okay, I don't know if somebody wants to add something to this case or not. Is anybody there? Okay. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. That was very good. Good analysis.
Thank you.
Okay, and yes, it's very difficult to work with tinnitus. It's not the thing here. It's which is particular in your case. Is that there's the whole psychological problematic, and added to that the tinnitus, which makes that it's Tomatis can really help him a lot. But yeah, he needs to accept the tinnitus and be able to work with it. So that's why I'm saying I'm not sure that what he's doing, it may help, but I'm not sure it will take the tinnitus. It's probably going to help, probably help a lot, but I'm not sure the tinnitus will go away with it.
Yeah, I understand.
Valerie, I have a question about drop off in the higher frequencies with older people.
Yes.
I have an older patient that had a stroke, and they had major drop-offs in the higher frequencies. I'm not sure, that might have been there before the stroke. Do you try to work into those frequencies? I'm afraid that, I mean, what can you do for someone that has major drop-offs in the higher frequencies?
Well, with older people, it's generally normal that they have drop-off because there's a hearing loss. Okay, so it's part of the hearing loss starts in this area. Okay, so you're gonna have and as you say, very it's you don't know the test before the brain problem. So it's true that we don't know how was the test before, but generally, if you have important drop off, you're probably almost sure in older people that there's a hearing loss. Okay, and there's nothing you can do about it. You cannot recuperate a hearing loss because it means that the inner hair cells are damaged, are gone, are lost, are destroyed. Okay, so you cannot recuperate. So we don't concentrate on the higher frequencies. We're going to work on the area of the test where that you can stimulate. Okay, and that's why when we work, for example, with hearing losses, we can use low band pass, like for 0,6000, 0,4000, because we're going to cut off in this area, because also it may be strange, but when there's hearing loss, people can be very sensitive to high frequencies, even if there's a hearing loss. So we're going to work more. Let's say that we have a 3000 and then the curve drops. I'm going to concentrate more in this area, in the linguistic area, and not work much on the higher frequencies, or not put filters in the higher frequencies. Because if I put a filter, let me take the pen here if I can. Yes. If I put, let's say, a filter at 3000, okay, which means I'm going to be cutting this. Okay, when I put a high pass filter, I cut this area and I just concentrate in a more specific manner in this area. If the curve of my clients look like this in this area, and I'm stimulating here, I'm not going to stimulate much. Okay, so when you have hearing losses, you're going to put a filter over here maybe. Okay, so you stimulate all this area, but you don't put filters that are too high up. Okay, oops, I'm sorry. Okay, did you get what I was, Michael? Does
Yes.
that, yes, that makes it
Yes.
clearer? Okay, so
Makes sense. Yes.
yeah, it's always think, what area do I want to stimulate? Okay, what does my client need, and how should I stimulate? So you can use, get this back. So I can use MU that's going to work on the whole frequencies. Okay, so that's very important, because even if there's a hearing loss, we can stimulate the whole frequencies. But then I can say to myself, well, the problem of my client here with the hearing loss is that he doesn't hear anymore the linguistic part. So I'm not going to concentrate on the high frequencies because this is not working good. I'm going to concentrate. Oh, merde. Sorry. Where is it? Okay. I'm going to concentrate more in the middle frequencies to stimulate the linguistic area with sound discrimination, sound analysis, linguistic, the phonemes, the rhythms, the timbres, and so on. So I'm going to work on area 1 and area 2, and very less, not much, on higher frequencies. And that's how, in general, we work with hearing losses. That's why also it's very important when there's a hearing loss and when it's possible in function of the difficulties to work active work. Active work is very important when there's hearing losses, to stimulate the linguistic area. And to give also, the problem in a lot of hearing losses is that the person loses the selectivity, the fine tuning of the ear. So they perceive, but they have to put sound very loud, and they lose the work of the external hearing cells. Okay, the outer hearing cells, which gives selectivity, which gives precision. So that's why they put the TV stronger, because the outer hearing cells have been damaged. So they hear something, but it's not precise. It's not, there's no discrimination. There's no sound analysis. And that's what we have to work. And you can work on that, concentrating yourself on the linguistic area. And linguistic area can go up to 3,000, 4,000, which already gives a lot of energy. Okay. I don't know if that was clear.
Yeah, thank you. That was my question about the energy loss to the cortex when you have the drop off in the higher frequencies. So as long as you're stimulating in the linguistic area, they're still getting, their cortex is still being charged.
Yeah. The zones where you get the more energy are not the higher zones. Okay. Up to more or less 4,000, it's where you get the more stimulation. Then when you go higher up, there's not much hearing cells in that area. So you don't get up to 5,000 more or less. That's the area. So when you are working in this area, you get a lot of stimulation. So you don't need to go, to very high frequencies. Okay, let's take another case. Okay, I think it's Lucy. If you can tell us about your case. Lucy, do you hear us? You need to open your microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm a bit zoned out right now.
Okay.
Okay, this client had just completed the first intensive, He's a 7-year-old boy who has had chronic ear infections. In school, he is on learning support. He has to have one-on-one teaching, and the biggest concern for the parents is that it takes him a long time to complete his assignments. He finds articulating his thoughts on paper very challenging. He has some focusing difficulties, and there are some motor issues. Of course, at school they focus on his fine motor, but I think in general his coordination, he doesn't really do or like sports, but I think their primary concern is to have him keep up in school and to be able to complete his assignments independently.
Okay. Oops, I'm sorry. Okay. So the objectives of Tomatis,
Are to improve his motor skills. This is hearing from the parents first off.
okay.
Particularly with writing. So their main attention is really on his writing abilities, which is all cognitive. They want him to have better attention, to be able to articulate his thoughts, and to also write his thoughts, because I think in school they have to give him extra time compared to his peers, and have even resulted in maybe giving him a laptop or other ways or recordings to kind of expedite certain assignments when they are able to adapt it. But I think going forward, it would be a challenge to always try and accommodate his learning style. So they are very interested in doing Tomatis to improve that.
Okay. So, so that's his first listening test. Okay, so what can you tell us about this listening test with when we look at the difficulties of the child? How do you?
Okay, looking at the balance, I think that it is mostly balanced. The levels look kind of similar, but I don't know if that's correct. I always get balance wrong. As far as symmetry goes, I think it's not, there's dissymmetry between the right and the left.
Yes.
Yeah. Therefore, that causes his, I guess, slow processing of information. The curves are on a rising trend.
Yes.
So I guess that's good. There's potential. In terms of the red or in terms of the bone and the air conduction, it's all messed up, I think, in all areas. There are some big gaps. It starts off low in the body zone, particularly in the right, on the right ear. But it starts off low in the area. I think the biggest distortions, I think, is in the body and in the communication zone for both. Plus, the curves are, the bone is trying to overtake, and there's a lot of stress.
Yes. Every time that you have disharmony like that, with distortion goes up and down like this, it's anxiety, it's stress. Okay, so some frequencies are perceived very high or higher than the others, and others are perceived very low. So there's like a hyper and hyposensitivity to certain sounds. Okay, which is how I cut from certain sounds and how I can react too strongly to other sounds. Okay.
Okay. So I see that there were some body issues. I think with the right ear, I think that's where his writing ability also falls in.
Yeah, there's a big problem. There's a big imbalance over here on the right ear and between the right and the left ear, which is just not the writing. The problem here is that they
The
are
body as well.
they are aiming at the writing, which is a fine motor skill, when the gross motor skills are not yet integrated correctly.
Mm.
What you see
Yes,
what I
when
mean?
I asked him questions about his coordination, they said, "Oh, he doesn't like sports."
Mm.
And I said, "Well, how does he feel about how he does?" And then they had to reflect, and they had to agree that they find him to be quite clumsy. He used to kind of bump into things and fall off his chair. So his coordination isn't very good. But they have, I think, are seeing a physical therapist and are trying to get him more involved with like swimming and trying to do martial arts. We just started that recently.
Okay, so that's very good. But what you will have also to see with them, it's that before getting to fine motor skills, we have to get the gross motor skills going on more or less correctly.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
in the way it works on the level of the nervous system. It's the gross, and then you get to fine. Okay, that's the same for language or writing or speech. You need to go from gross to fine. So that's one thing that has to be clear with the parents, because they're gonna expect changes in writing that will happen. That's for sure, but maybe not at the beginning.
Yeah, first I did explain to them that we have to first work with the body,
Excellent.
or his motor skills first will be more obvious, and the writing part, the communication, putting his thoughts in a logical order and being able to articulate will come later when his emotions and his body are more stable.
Yes, very good.
Okay, so I thought in all three zones in both sides were off.
Yeah.
Let's see, the gaps were also more than 10 dB in certain areas. So there are some touches and overlaps, and then also some big gaps.
That's why there's a big disharmony in the curves. Yes. Big.
But overall, you'd still say it's balanced? Because I get that confused
Yeah,
sometimes when I look at
it
this
is balanced. Not much balance here in this, okay, because we are not on the same level, but in a general manner, if we take the bone curve, okay, they're more or less at the same level. So it's more or less balanced, except a little bit in this area where the air curve is too down compared to the other side. But it's part of his problematic, yeah.
Okay.
You can be unbalanced in just one area.
And that's still overall still okay. It's still considered balanced.
Yeah, because if you look here and here, they're more or less balanced. Yes. What creates the what looks like an imbalance? It's more the disharmony of the curves, the gaps and the peaks that you get, the ups and down of the curve.
Okay. Let me see what's next. He had a number of spatializations, particularly in the body and the communication on the right ear.
Yes.
And then on the left ear, particularly on the communication.
Well,
and then energy zone.
Yeah, it's almost everywhere. I would say it like that.
Okay, and selectivity closed. So
yeah, that's interesting because selectivity, there's not many errors, but what's kind of interesting is that in the two last frequencies you have errors, which should be frequencies that at his age should be integrated. Okay. And he gets them wrong on the lower frequencies, which means that his capacity of analysis is not good at all. Okay. Also, something very important is the spatialization errors in air conduction. Okay. Because I don't know if you talked about it or not.
No, actually, it's the first time I've ever had that in a curve.
That's very important because even one error is important in air conduction, okay? Because there's no reason with headphones for air conduction that you hear the sound on the other side. Okay, so it means that the transfer is not good and that there's a big problem in the sound in sound integration in the person. So that could be due to his ear infections. Okay, where the tympanic membrane is not reacting correctly to sound, and there's big confusion in how he's integrating the information. So that's something very important, and it can be also an indication of a more important problem on a developmental level. Okay, that there can be a delay at that level in the integration. So always take very seriously the errors of spatialization in air conduction. I think in this case they're probably due to the ear infections, but it's something important to take into account.
What other problems could it be from when you say developmental problems? If it's not ear infections, what could it be?
It can be lack of maturity of the nervous system. And also, Tomatis used to say that some people with, lower intelligence, I don't know how you say that, cognitive delay, I don't know how you say that.
Okay.
Okay, that can have this type of reaction. Generally, they have more than just a few ones.
Okay.
Or people with, also it can be people with a lot of anxiety. That the sound is so confusing that they have no idea where it's coming from in inner conduction.
Okay, he doesn't look very anxious at all, which is surprising.
Yes,
he was very pleasant and very quiet, very...
Well, then he compensates very well.
Okay.
Because when you have distortions like this, generally it's because there's a lot of anxiety with the spatialization errors, selectivity, which is completely closed, even if there's not many errors. But personally, I think he's very anxious.
Actually, he did have sleep problems. I forgot to mention that. That he would normally wake up 3-4 times in the evening. And from the first day of doing the F program, throughout the F program, his sleep had improved.
Okay.
Okay. And then in terms of the availability, I had a question about that because it doesn't show any. I'm trying to see if I remember my notes correctly. Availability, that he's not really sensitive to the environment or background noise. That's what it would mean, and not emotionally vulnerable, correct?
Emotionally
not necessarily. Like sensitive, emotionally sensitive, or what other meanings from this? Is it purely environmental? It should be emotional as well. How do you tell what the real meaning is for this case?
The thing, the curve, the availability curve gives you an indication on the capacities of accommodation to what's going around, okay, to the sounds around, okay. The lower the curve, okay, or lower meaning down here, okay, which means higher intensity, means that the ear reacts correctly to higher intensity sounds and is able to accommodate, to protect itself. Okay, but if I have the bone curve like this going up, it's not working correctly. Okay, so you have to.
Because I thought that was very odd. That this was very low. That he had a high tolerance actually, and his curve looked like that.
Yeah, he has there's a high tolerance in the. I would say it's more physiological than emotional. When the green curve will be more how on a physiological level he's protecting himself. Could be the work of the bone and the stirrup and the hammer muscle, and more the hammer muscle. Okay, but in the other hand, emotionally, he's not at all protecting himself correctly, because we have a hypersensitivity in this area and in different areas on the left side.
Mm.
So it's more
Okay.
on the accommodation to around sounds, surrounding sounds.
Okay. Because when I would press even the last sound, he wasn't reacting sometimes. So I had that situation.
Yeah, and it's a test I don't do much with children, because they well, sometimes they don't react, and sometimes I think they're also trying to resist to the intensity, even if they don't show
Mm.
it, to see how far they can go. Okay, and they don't have the notion of being comfortable or uncomfortable, or they don't, so they stay there waiting until it really hurts before raising their hand. So I'm not sure. I don't know. I would have to discuss that with to
Mm.
see if it's really. I like to do it on adults,
Mm.
but I don't do it much
Okay.
on children, unless there's a really problem of accommodation of sensitivity, because it also depends on how the person compensates. That's for sure. But here you see,
Okay.
even if the curve is it's not too low either. Okay, because you can have curves which are lower, but the sensitivity on the listening level is there. That's for sure.
Mm. Okay. Yes, and selectivity is closed, and laterality was an 8.
Yes, laterality is right-eared. Okay, and the resistance is not too good. Starting at what age do you do availability? There's a question. It really depends on the difficulties. I have no particular age I do it on. As I was saying, I do it more with adults, because I think it's more interesting or significant on their capacity to accommodate to the surrounding sounds, because generally adults complain more, even if they're children that complain that in classroom and so on they are bothered by the external sounds. So you can do it at any, starting at 6 years old, or when the person is able to do the listening, but to be very careful that they really understand what you are asking. Like Maud is saying, I do it on children, but over age of 6, I think it's a good age, because they probably really understand what's the difference between when it hurts, when it's comfortable or uncomfortable. Okay, so that's the whole dilemma, is to be clear on that. If they're just not resisting to the intensity of sound, to show that they're very strong and they can stay.
Tolerate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So you just need to make clear of what the goal is. For me, I do it personally much more on adults than on children.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Okay. So
Okay.
then, wait. Okay.
So for this child, I've just completed him, and he has just done the F program.
Okay.
And the only feedback so far is that his sleep has improved almost instantly, or during the listening
Mm-hmm.
at that time.
Okay. So we need
But
to wait.
no other feedback yet. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's he's probably gonna improve a lot with the program, except that it's gonna take time, like we were saying, because you have to work on the gross motor skills, and then you'll get the really make sure that this part is okay before going to the other parts of the listening test, to stimulate the writing and the speech and so on.
Okay.
Okay, so after when he comes back and you do a new listening test, really check what's going on with the selectivity and on the between the relation between the bone and the R curve in the lower parts, in the different parts of the listening test.
How important is selectivity in the analysis at the early stages? Because I was going to look at the relationship between the air and the bone curves, and I've seen that with another client where the curves are improving. Maybe there's less, or the red starts to form underneath the bone, but yet selectivity numbers come up, or even spatializations increase, like it becomes a bit messy, but yet the curves are looking better.
Okay, spatialization errors often increase in between programs. Okay. Because you are modifying the way the person is integrating the information, the way the person is positioning themselves in all the ways. It means it's positioning towards his environment, towards himself, towards the others, and so on. So there can be some anxiety, there can be also confusion in the way to integrate the information. So often you have more spatialization errors that can appear on the second or the third test in function of the programs and the work you do. Then the selectivity is very important because it has a linguistic function, it has a cognitive function, and it has an emotional function. Okay, so Tomatis used to talk about a curtain. Okay, you pull a curtain to protect yourself. Okay, so it protects on an emotional way. Okay, but here where selectivity is completely closed, which means that from 125 up, everything is closed on both ears. Okay, so I can have the ideal curve under my selectivity. I don't have access to that. Okay, so I'm going to have to compensate the fact that the selectivity is close, even if I have very good curves under it. And that's why selectivity is one of the first things we look at, because it means that sound analysis is not correct. It means that you're not able to analyze and differentiate one sound from the other. And you have to take into account that we are working on pure sounds. So on the listening test, when we do selectivity, it's one pure sound compared to the other. If you're not able to analyze correctly the difference between two pure sounds, imagine the confusion when you receive thousands of sounds at the same time, when somebody's talking and speaking, and you have to analyze all that very fast. Well, it means selectivity being closed. It's not possible for the person. Or even if it's closed in one area, it asks for a lot of efforts, because you cannot ask the person to stop while you're analyzing the pack of sound they send. So you're always, or the brain is always late in the treatment of the information and has to compensate. So they get a pack, but they don't get precise analysis of the information. So you are in a world which is kind of confused, if we can say that like that, where sound analysis is not precise. So that's the first thing. Second level is the anxiety. If you close the curtain, is that there is something that's bothering you. Okay, so you're protecting yourself from certain frequencies. We cannot know exactly which ones, okay, because we would have to do a selectivity test on all the frequencies of the spectrum, which is not possible. But we know that a lot of frequencies are making the limbic system react. Okay, so if the limbic system reacts, you're not listening anymore. Okay, you're protecting yourself from your environment because there may be danger in integrating the information. And then on a cognitive level, if you're not able to analyze correctly, well, you're integrating things which are confused. So selectivity is, for me, probably one of the most important parameters of the listening test.
So in this case, with him, because the selectivity is completely closed in a classroom setting, he doesn't understand what is that's why he needs one-on-one, because he cannot keep up with the dialogue or
Yeah, it's one of
learning.
the reason, because to keep up on what the teacher is saying, it asks him for too many effort. So after 2-3 minutes, he just lets go, because there's the selectivity which is close, the errors of spatialization, the spatialization in air conduction, which means that the information he's getting, it's not clear. On top of the problems between the bone and the air curve, where it's the same. If that's why we need curves which are balanced and harmonious. Okay, so we get the same message in both ears. Okay, which is absolutely not the case for the moment. So all his listening test goes with that problem of having to have somebody to work on one by one, one-on-one, so the other person can give him time to integrate the information, re-explain the assignments and the what he has to do and so on. Because if not, there's too many things to analyze at the same time, which are not, the information going in is not clear. It's like he's in a world of with a foreign language. It's like if you, I don't know, if you speak Chinese to me, it's gonna make me laugh for 2 minutes, and then I'm gonna just cut off because I don't understand what you're gonna be telling me. So it's a little bit exaggerated, but it's a little bit what's happening to him in when somebody's is speaking to him. The information that goes in is not clear, and so it's very, very demanding for the child, which can also create some anxiety because he's never sure of the message and of what is going in.
Okay, now since he's completely closed, which I've never had, when you say go slowly and progressively and not move on straight to, I don't know, trying to work on other things without, he has to be stable first. So the programs I would consider before that, I would have to look if the selectivity is completely open, or is it as long as there's an improvement in selectivity? How do I, you said selectivity is the first thing, one of the first things you look at, or the first thing.
Yes.
So,
I look at, you have to look at the relation between air and bone, that's for sure, and the relation with selectivity. The problem with selectivity is that it's very psychological. Okay, so there's not much you can do to open it. So we're gonna look at the relation between the air and the bone curve, that they get better. Okay, like I was saying, that this part first, because here, like you were saying in the beginning, you have an ascending curve. So energy, he doesn't need energy. Okay, he has plenty. His curve is a dynamic curve, so that's very good. You don't need to give him energy. But if we look at his curve, it's quite low in the lower frequencies. So we need to work at this level, and that's where the F program is interesting, or even could be also the T program, which is a program that works in globality. Okay, the globality of the curve. So we'll be working with also the low band pass 04000, 06000. We can use also, if we, after the F program, we can use also valves to work on this area in function of what the result will be. But always look at the, I would think that's my advice, is to look always from zone 1, how is it? Okay, how is it functioning? Is the vestibular system integrated or not? Then you look at the linguistic area, and then you look at the energy, the cortical arousal area. And then you have to look at the 3 zones together to see which music is the best adapted to what you want to stimulate. And that's how you're going to choose your program. Okay. And selectivity, normally if the person starts feeling better, he's going to let go on selectivity. Okay, there's question of mode. Does it matter where the curtain starts on or the zone that it is in? Well, yes, it matters. It's the I don't know what but the more is it closed, the harder it is for the person in the integration of information. And on the emotional level, it means also that, remember that the selectivity is interesting with the relation between the functioning of the outer hair cells that give to the ear selectivity. Okay, it's the outer hair cells who are going to give the inner hair cells, who are going to amplify and give precision selectivity in the sound analysis. I don't know how Tomatis came about to the selectivity test, but it's completely in relation with this. So in function, if everything is close, it means that there are a lot of frequencies, or the way I would put it is that there are a lot of frequencies that are bothering me. So almost anything, any person talking or any sound is my limbic system is reacting to it. And that's why the F program, as I said before, is very important, because we cover all the frequencies to try to desensitize the reactions of the limbic system to any frequency. Okay, since we cannot know, we know selectivity is close everywhere, but we cannot know precisely which frequency is the one who's disturbing or which frequencies, maybe there are many of them, are disturbing the integration of the information. Then if it's just touching on the linguistic area, it's going to have problems in the sound analysis, in the how you say, in writing, in spelling, in all that has to do with more linguistic. And then on the third level is on zone 3, the selectivity being close will have difficulties, for example, in putting your ideas into shape, your thoughts into shapes, and so on. So, which goes with everything that you explained concerning this child. Okay.
Okay.
Let me see. I don't know if I answer your question, Maud. What selectivity being different in the two ears tells us? Well, it's close at the same level. Okay, except you have a little bit more errors on the left than on the right. Sorry, than the left ear. You cannot say it's impossible to I was gonna say to say what it tells us, except that one ear is more it's finer than the other, and if you see the laterality, it doesn't go either with the laterality, because the right ear is more close and he's right-eared. So it's no relation, but you have to take into account both sides. Like I said earlier, remember about the fact what's the left and the right ear. And for Tomatis, both ears have to be open in the selectivity to be able to function correctly. Because you could say, well, the right ear is open, but the left ear is not open, so there's less problem. Yeah, but the left ear being the past, being the emotional ear, if it keeps closed, it means that there is something really important in the past that's bothering the person. If emotionally I'm closing, it's that I'm protecting myself. So I'm not as available to the present if in the past there's a lot of things that I cannot handle and manage. So that's why you need to have both ears open, completely open when everything is functioning correctly. Okay.
So Valerie, in such a case, because the parents were also asking me how many loops before they see, or would this take 2 cycles? I mean, I know it's very individual, but
what do you
they wanted me
call
to
2 cycles?
or three intensives is 1 cycle.
Okay, so it would be 6 intensive.
Yes, exactly. Would it take 2 cycles or?
I was going to say 1.5.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh.
No, I'm joking. Sorry. No, the thing is here. It's the child is doing other types of therapies, I imagine.
I think he's doing physical No, he's doing speech therapy.
Okay. So
I
because
think speech, and I think they're looking into occupational therapy.
I think that would be a very good idea. The thing is that Tomatis can get things started, okay, but then there's delays in acquisition. How you say? They delay.
The acquisition.
Yeah, in the acquisitions, that Tomatis is not gonna how you say recuperate. That has to be done by the speech therapist or in occupational therapy for his coordination and motor skills. So we can adjust, adapt. We can make that the system works correctly, but then you have to train it. And that's through the speech and occupational therapy or other types of therapies. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the results that the parents are expecting in writing or in attention, in articulating thoughts, we may not get them with Tomatis because we're gonna put things to a certain level, but then you will have to get other types of stimulation. But they should be able to see modification quite fast after the first program. But they should be looking not at writing or articulating and writing thoughts, but on coordination on at this level first. Okay.
Okay.
How many cycles? I would say minimum 3. How you say?
Yeah, 3 loops or.
Yeah, 3 loops, and between 3 to 5 loops. I would say.
Okay. They just wanted an indication, and I wasn't able to give them.
Well, you're
Said it was
too
individual. Yeah.
intensive. You were fine with it.
Okay. So this is all I have for now until I
Okay.
get the results of the second.
Well, that was very good and very interesting case. So we need to wait for the next.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I'm gonna stop here for tonight. I haven't had time to look at all the case studies, so we'll have to look at them on the next presentation because there's takes time to do it if we want to do it correctly. So I don't know if you have questions you would like to ask. I open your microphones if you want to ask questions or by writing. Just a second. Okay, so I don't know if you have any questions you would like to ask before we finish the webinar for today.
Will we be doing more? Will we be doing more case studies in the next one?
Yes. On the next one, we will talk about the audio vocal work and case studies. Okay, so the case studies that because it takes time and I want you to present them because it's no use if I present them since it's your cases.
I will rework mine then.
Okay, no problem. It's yes. We'll do. I'll concentrate more. We'll try to do more next time. But
Wonderful.
it's true that it takes time.
Yes. It's not easy.
No.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Valerie.
I hope we'll have the time to do all of them next time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for your listening. Let me see. No questions. Okay, no, there's no more questions. So, okay, I'll stop here for today. And We'll
Thank
see.
you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you very
Thank
much,
you.
Valerie. Good night.
Good night. Bye
Good night.
bye.